The next step in the DriveWorks Express automation process is to create the rules that will drive your SolidWorks model. I'll click on the next arrow and I am taken to the main Rules Builder page. Here I see a list of rule types, how many of each type there are, how many rules are missing and still need to be defined, and action checkboxes to control which set of rules to work on. I'll start with the dimension rules, so I'll select the Edit Dimension Rules checkbox and then click on the next arrow. DriveWorks Express shows a table with the dimension names I created when capturing the SolidWorks dimensions, the file name they belong to, the type of rule, the current value of the rule, and the formula used to create the rule. There is an option to show missing rules only. This option will only show the names whose rules have not been created. Working with this option enabled, you will know when you are done since there will be no more items in the table. I'll start by defining the length. To create a rule, double-click anywhere on the row. This is where you define the formula for your rule. There are several drop-down menus at the top to assist in defining the rule. Inputs is where all the controls from the form are stored. Notice the icons next to the names correspond to its type of input. Recent allows you to store quick text or rules previously used, using the copy and paste functions. Math stores the commonly used mathematical operators. Finally, Logic stores logical operators and conditional statements. The other options at the top of the screen are to decrease and increase the font size. And finally, Clear Rule clears the box. At the bottom of the window, Result will display the value of the rule, as well as some helpful hints. The rule for the length dimension is to make it equal to whatever the user enters in the length input on the form. To do this, I'll just select Length from the Inputs drop-down menu. In the Results section, notice that the value updates to the default value we set in the form. This lets me know that the rule is working correctly. I'll click OK to return to our rule list. When I do, notice that the length is missing from the list. If I check Show Missing Rules Only, you can see length reappear, with the formula column filled. Also notice that there is an equal sign in the formula column. I'll double-click on the length to edit the rule, and you can see the actual sign was automatically inserted. All of the rules are equations, so in creating rules, you can either manually add the equal sign or let DriveWorks do it for you. I'll click OK to return to the list. I'll create the rule for the width, which is again just an input from the form. I will add it just like I did with the length and click OK. Next up is the depth rule. In my design, I found that the depth should be 2/3 of the width, or depth equals width divided by 1.5. To write this equation, I can type width / 1.5, but I recommend using the input drop-down to select width. This prevents typos and invalid equations. My result updates correctly, but if I make a mistake, DriveWorks would let me know here that there is a problem with my rule. Even though this is the correct result, notice how long the number is. Sending a result with that many significant figures to SolidWorks is ineffective, since I can only work with a precision of 1/1000th of an inch. DriveWorks Express rules are created using Microsoft Excel commands, so I can use the round function to make sure I only send 3 decimal places to SolidWorks. If you are new to Excel commands, a good tip is to use either the Excel or SolidWorks help documents to get more information about these commands. To add the round function, I'll type round, open parenthesis, before width. Then after 1.5, type comma, 3, close parenthesis. And this result is much nicer. At this point, I want to save this formula to use again later. I can do this using the Recent drop-down menu. First, I'll highlight my equation and press Ctrl+C to copy. Then, under the Recent drop-down menu, I'll select Change Quick Text to bring up the Quick Text window. In this window, I'll press Ctrl+V to paste my equation, and click OK to add it as a quick text. Now the formula is available to be used in other rules by selecting it from the Recent menu. Also, note that when typing equations, DriveWorks is not case-sensitive. However, it is visually helpful to use a consistent case scheme, especially when you have to troubleshoot any errors. I'll click OK to return to the rules list. The next rule I need to create is for the thickness. This is controlled by the drop-down menu in the form, so I just need to select thickness from the Inputs drop-down menu. The final rule I need for the dimensions is the corner break size. This is going to be half the value of the depth. A limitation of DriveWorks Express, but not in the full version of DriveWorks, is that you cannot have immediate variables act as placeholders. What this means is that we have to reuse the equation for the depth to create the rule for the corner break size, and cannot explicitly use the variable depth. If you recall, the formula for depth is the one I saved to the quick text clipboard, so I simply select it from the recent drop-down menu. Then complete the formula by dividing by 2. Again, the result updates, and I'll click OK to return to the rules table.